Before we jump into this conversation, I wanted to let you know about something exciting I've been working on. As you might know, I'm incredibly passionate about helping people to find and share their voice, especially if their voice is one that aims to create positive change in others. So I've been working intentionally to bring that mission to life and have launched a new podcast network with purpose. It's called the Guide Your Light Network, and it features podcasts and voices that inspire, educate, and transform listeners. And we have a library of podcasts that are part of this network that truly embody that mission, and we are looking for more. So if this has sparked an interest in you and you're ready to start exploring speaking and using your voice in this way, I'd really love you to check it out. And if you have something important to say, but perhaps don't know where to start to bring it to life, we can also help to hold your hand through that process to craft your authentic message through our Guide Your Light sessions, where you can get super clear on your intention, messaging, and structure needed to launch a podcast of your own with purpose that is authentically you. So just click over to guideyourlightnetwork.com and you can find out more. Hey everybody, I'm Maritza Barone, and this is the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. Has there ever been a moment in your life where you heard or read or were told something that you simply could not unhear? Something that caused you to make positive changes so that you could become the best version of yourself? Well, we share this show with access to inspiring and empowering humans who will motivate you to become the happiest, healthiest, kindest, and most compassionate you. Sit back, settle in, and let this be the day you hear something that simply cannot be unheard. Hello and welcome back to Things You Can't Unhear. Thank you for pressing play on this episode. Today we have comfort in numbers. I've got two guests on the show. Two exceptional change makers who have teamed up to bring the world their important life messages, exploring personal development, which I know I love and you do too, which is probably why you clicked play on this, and of course, self-awareness. So I've got Shannah Kennedy and Colleen Callander joining me today, both influential and dynamic forces on health and well-being, leadership, and high performance. Shannah is one of Australia's leading strategic life coaches, and Colleen, who's been on the show before, is the former CEO of two of Australia's most iconic fashion brands, Sportsgirl and Sussan. And they've joined forces in a stellar female collaboration to combine their skill sets and have created this exceptional new program called the Masterplan, which is for people who want to live at their optimum level, personally and professionally. On this episode, we discuss why having a life coach is so important to our overall physical and mental health, the pros and cons of goal setting, how to avoid burnout, finding and embodying our personal values, which we've been talking quite a bit about on this podcast lately, and incorporating self-care into our lives to achieve self-mastery and balance, and so much more. So I hope you enjoy this chat with these two dynamic powerhouse women who are trying to change the world one step at a time. Welcome to the show, two exceptional change makers, Shannah and Colleen. Thank you for being here on the Things You Can't Unhear podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having us. It's wonderful to be back, and it's wonderful to be here today with Shannah and yourself.
I love absolutely what you are both doing. And before we hit record, we said there's power in numbers, isn't there? And it's so powerful to see two incredible people come together and carve a pathway for others to see life in a different way and to look at, a new perspective on the way that they approach things. So tell me about, how did you begin working together?
Well, it actually started a long time ago. We've actually been friends for about 20 years, I think, because I've met Colleen through her husband at a previous job. So we've done some family holidays together. And then when Colleen became CEO and burnt out a bit, she employed a life coach, which was me. So I was her coach for 13 years. And also coached her leadership team for about 10 years on and off. And really she invested in, how can we all show up to work being the best versions of ourselves and get clarity on our life, on how we're going to show up and lead, but also how can we retain the staff and make sure that they're not burning out. So we, over that journey, really have developed an incredible amount of experience between us on leading and living.
Yeah, absolutely. And Colleen, we've heard your personal story on the podcast probably about 6 months ago when you were on, and you've got such a great story of leadership. And I think you do mention your coach throughout that episode and that conversation quite regularly. So a coach is someone that is very important. But Shannah, I'd love to hear about your personal journey into coaching and what brought you to this point in your career.
Yeah, so basically, my 20s, it was all corporate sport and the Jerry Maguire job and flying around and buying and selling athletes and just being around high performance, serious high performance, Olympic level high performance. So I got a really great insight into their lives and what actually happens to people when they haven't done their life plan, and really saw that once that they retired, they didn't know who they were without their job. So when I burnt out and got chronic fatigue syndrome before the age of 30, because I married my job and worked 7 days a week for years and years and years and had no self-care strategies, that was my chance to really reset and think about, how do I want to live my life? What's happening around me? And I saw that there was a big gap in the market for no one's helping these athletes with their transition. So I studied life coaching 22 years ago when nobody had even heard of it. So I was quite the outlier. There's definitely no women around in sport, and wanted to coach elite athletes into retirement, because they retire by the time they're 30 most of the time. So that's what I did. I started my practice 20 years ago, and it was hard work. There was no Facebook, no Instagram, no internet really, and just had to start by just using referral and my contacts and really delivering a great service to people. So that's how it started. And 20 years later, I've written 7 books, the Life Plan being the bestseller, and it's turned very corporate. So I ended up coaching CEOs and leaders and business owners over the last 20 years on what was their plan and what was their 20-year plan and what were their values, and how do we really manage the process in between and to be their sounding board. So yeah, it's been a great journey. And I really realized that, when my kids got to an age that they were old enough for me to really travel a lot and speak a lot, that traveling and speaking on my own was really a bit lonely. And why aren't we collaborating with more women and combining our incredible experiences to teach others and share the story with others?
Oh, wow. You're living and leading by experience, which I love. And Colleen, you've obviously had Shannah as your life coach, but I want to know why people need a life coach. What is it that really will help them by gaining a life coach and using the expertise of someone who's in those shoes?
If I think about when I got a life coach, which obviously was Shannah, I, as you know, Maritza, we've spoken about this, I was burnt out. I had nothing left in the tank. And the reason I had nothing left in the tank is I was a general manager of Sportsgirl. I had 3 young children. I was a people pleaser. I was an overcommitter. Yes was my favorite word. And so I literally just kept going faster and faster and faster. And as you know, in my book, I talk about myself as the red Ferrari, but the one that had never put petrol in the tank, pulled into the pits, changed the tires. So I completely hit a wall, and I actually didn't know a way through because I had conditioned myself to be a workaholic. I conditioned myself to live the life I was living in. And so for me to get a coach, and the reason Shannah, was just such an incredible support to me, and then obviously I had her work with all of my team, as she mentioned, was you actually need people in your corner. You need people to be able to help you find a way through. You need people to be there to pick you up when you fall over, because you are going to fall over on this journey, even on this journey of recovery from burnout, because we naturally have a tendency to fall back into our comfort zone. And my comfort zone was to be a workaholic. So, Shannah helped me just define my values. I had no idea who I was without my job. I knew I was a great mom. I knew I was a great leader, but you take those things away, and I actually had no idea who I was at the core. So getting yourself a coach is really about finding finding out who you are. What makes you tick? What do you want for your life? What is your future vision for self? And particularly as women, we don't invest the time in thinking about that because we are on this crazy wheel called life. And so a big part of what Shannah and I have put together, and the reason we've collaborated, is because we bring very different skills to the table. Shannah is one of the leading health and wellbeing experts and strategic life coaches in the country. My experience is all around people and making people your biggest asset, and leadership and culture and brand. So what we've done is brought those two together to create what we believe is this incredible space, what we call, all about human elevation and high performance. And really teaching people the pillars of life, the pillars of leadership, but also the pillar of longevity. And that's really the big piece that everyone's missing today, is how do we do this? How do we have a great life? How do we live with success and accomplishment and celebration and all of those things, whatever that all means to you, but how do we do it without getting on the burnout train? And so that is the really big piece of the puzzle that is missing for so many people, particularly post, I wouldn't say post-COVID, I would say in our new COVID, new world.
New world, yeah. I love that you've brought this solution to the table together. I still want to jump deeper into the problem, because a lot of people are probably sitting there listening now going, I am burnt out. I don't know who I am when I leave that office. I actually have spare time. I don't know what to do in my spare time because I jump on my laptop and just work. Guilty sometimes. I'm trying not to do that as much. Sometimes I prefer to work than watch TV. It's more enjoyable for me. But I've noticed that I do need to take that time away and give myself space away from working, because that's when these burnout things can happen. So how do we identify when we are perhaps reaching a stage that could potentially lead us in the wrong direction, or to burnout, or to chronic fatigue, or to any type of illness?
Well, you get lots of warning signs, right? You get the warning signs of, oh, I've noticed I can't sit still. That's the first warning sign is, we're stuck on the treadmill and we just don't know how to change the speed and the volume. So if you're that person that you've got 5 minutes and you need to cram it full of things because you can't sit still, that's your very first one. It means you're not comfortable in your own skin. And then you get headaches, or you might not sleep well, or your eating's not right, or you've got a bit of brain fog. You've got that lethargy coming in and you're just not listening to all of the cues. So I think a lot of people are probably suffering burnout, but they don't really know how to recognize it, number one, and then they just don't even know what to do. So self-awareness is the first piece we always talk about. Is if you actually just sat down for a moment and thought about yourself, and can you look in the mirror and do you know what's most important to you, and are you feeling exactly how you'd love to feel? And if not, there's that discrepancy. That's where you always start.
These are your values, aren't they? Your personal values.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
I've been talking about values a lot with Dr. DeMartini on this show, and that's his key element as well. If you don't know your personal values, where you sit, what you believe in, then how can you turn up to your business or a job or anywhere, really, a relationship, if you don't know what you thrive in, what environment you thrive in?
Yeah, and Colleen is a high performer. I'm a high performer. And what we've done is bring high performance in. So working with elite athletes, we've thought about, they leave the track. You can't just keep training 24 hours a day. There has to be an off switch where you have a proper recovery. And that the athlete world, actually, they look at recovery as a really important strategy and part of their training. Whereas when we're humans and we're just going to work, we don't see recovery in that light. So Colleen and I are really shining a light on what is your recovery program. And you need to think of yourself like an elite athlete who actually leaves work and does proper recovery so you can do great work tomorrow.
And just to add to that, Maritza, when you come back to your values, if people don't know their values, they can't make those decisions that Shannah's talking about. So for Shannah and I, health is one of our values. Of course it is. Shannah still today lives with chronic fatigue. I had burnout, which I have not had because I put in the work and put in the strategies. But if we don't know our values, we don't know how to make decisions, because our values are the things that we deem most important in the way we live and work. So if we don't know what they are, how can we make decisions with clarity and confidence we can't. So the first part is, as you're saying, that foundational piece, which is what we work with everyone on in our programs and all of our events and everything, is the foundations of self. Your foundations, your values, and your purpose. If we don't know what they are, we are living on shaky ground. It's like building a house with really bad foundations, right? It's not going to last. It's not going to stand the test of time. And as humans, we are exactly the same. If we don't build those foundations that Shannah's talking about, then we are not going to stand the test of time either. We will not be able to deal with all of the things that life throws at us that are out of our control. So really, really important that we start there.
And in order to identify them, we actually need to stop and pause, don't we? We need to take that time to figure it out because, especially both of you are mums, you're busy, working women, you've got these amazing careers, probably not much spare time to yourselves to actually stop and pause. But when we make that conscious decision, I'm going to choose to stop and pause and get to know myself on a better level, what actually happens is pretty amazing, isn't it?
And once you have that clarity, you have to write it down and you need to see it every day. So, I've had this sticky note here for 20 years with my values on it.
Do you want to read it out to us?
Yes, it's health is number one, which is mental, physical, emotional health. What am I doing every day for that? So your values become the boss, the home plate, and they're more important than anything. So you're working for your values. So what am I doing for my mental health today? My affirmations, my brain training, what I'm telling myself, my inner critic. What am I doing for my physical health, the way we eat, move, sleep, and breathe? And then what are we doing for emotional health, which is our ability to be kind and empathetic to ourselves and to others, etc. The second one's family. So that means how are we showing up? So, Colleen and I got the same value there that we want to show up as being fun. We want to be fun wives and we want to be warm and nurturing mums. And then achievement is the third because she has the same. We're both achievement junkies, A-type overachieving perfectionists, which ends in burnout. So we've had to change achievement to what are we doing to care for ourselves today? So whether it be the breath work, whether it be taking regular breaks, we both go for walks 2 or 3 times a day. We're always going out and changing things up. No matter how busy we are, we'll walk around the block or do something. So that's the boss. That's the real boss. And when you see it every day and it's on the mirror or a screensaver or on your car dashboard, for me, it's on a sticky note here and on the mirror in the bathroom, you can't forget. And I think what people do is they might go and do these courses and things and they don't write it down. And then they come home and they feel good and then they're forgotten. So what we really created together was, people have to create their own master plan and it has to be written and it needs to be on the wall.
Guess what I'm doing in a minute? Grabbing a post-it note. I've done my values and they're very similar to yours, but you're right. Having it in front of you is a big key to remembering it and having that longevity that you both talk about and revisiting it every day. I love that you call that the boss because that is the boss. That's your inner self. I've got other post-it notes up in front of me actually of goals that I have set for myself. So I want to talk about goal setting as well as something that can help us to achieve obviously what we want to set out to achieve, but also the discussion of whether goal setting can potentially be stressful or anxiety causing. Because I've heard this recently on a podcast that I produce as well called Beauty in the Pom, where, one of them was talking about how important goal setting is. And the other one's like, yeah, I agree with you. But sometimes having those goals staring at you in the face can invoke so much stress. So where do you sit on that? I'd love to hear from both of you.
I think goals are super important. But that doesn't mean that if we don't hit our goal, we go and, beat ourselves up. But we have to have something to work towards. I say to people, we don't have to have a 3, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40-year plan. We can if we want. And we'll certainly say to people, you need to be thinking about your 10-year self all the time, because we are chasing that 10-year self and we have to put in the work today to be that best 10-year self. But for me, I think goals are really, really important. And I use a very, very simple method, which is what, why, when, and where to from here. What is your goal? Why does it matter? Why is it important? When are you going to achieve it by? And the where to from here is your action. And again, we write these things down because when we put pen to paper, what we're doing is actually holding ourselves accountable. So as Shanna said, that boss is looking back at us every day going, here are your goals. You've written them down and you're making yourself accountable. So again, I think goals are really important. I think we just need to keep them simple. And if we don't get there, that's okay. We'd move the goal out, or we change it, or our life changes. So for me, goals are super important. We also talk about having a vision, a future vision. And that's a big piece that Shanna shares with everyone. So I think having both of them in tandem are great. Having those goals that are tangible, but also really creating a future vision for yourself.
What about you, Shanna?
Yeah, I think, well, coming from high performance elite athlete, goals are imperative for inspiration and motivation. So if you don't have any goals, where is your inspiration to grow and evolve every day? Or what is your brain got to hold on to? So the brain is really lazy. It loves to look for the negative. It loves to see catastrophe. And if we don't inspire it with some nice carrots, it doesn't know what to do. So we need to set some goals for it to be excited by. We're going to write another book. We've just got a book deal with Penguin, and we're like, great, that's a great goal that we wanted. And now we've set it into mini goals of how do we break it up and how do we get it to the complete end line. And if we don't have those goals, we'd just be sitting here like, what are we doing? Where are we going? So the brain actually needs small goals, medium goals, large goals to support the vision that are all based around your values.
I really like that. I like how you break it up. You get to the first stage and then you can hit to the next stage and break it up into smaller bite-sized pieces, because sometimes it's the big, huge goal that overwhelms you and can freak you out and go, okay, I'm just going to hide under that cute little rock over there and not do anything.
And you know how people say, oh, we need a purpose. Well, your purpose is when you have values and you have a vision and some goals, you have daily purpose. Why you're getting up, why you're going for a walk, why you're doing breath work, why you're drinking the water, because you want to feel a certain way or achieve a certain thing. So it gives you purpose. And without them, I think that people do not get the results, and they do feel quite lost, and they do then get a bit anxious because they've got nothing to hold on to.
Language is another key factor, isn't it, into how we achieve life mastery, or whatever we want to call it. Happiness. Let's call it happiness. So I think language for me is, you hear people say, oh, I hate that, or I hate that, or, negative terminology that we're so used to just hearing and saying as part of life. And I've chosen to consciously remove that word out of my life or my vocabulary, because it doesn't really serve. I don't actually hate anything. And when you put something, that negative slant on something, just that's one example about language. But I'd love to know, sort of from both of you, how important you find language and how we can craft it in a way that's serving us at our best.
It's a great one. And Shanna actually taught me this tool. So it's not that I have to, it's that I get to. And so I don't have to do anything. I get to do these things. I get to hang out with my kids. I get to do their washing. I get to cook them dinner. I get to write a book with Shanna. I get to do so many amazing things. And when we change that narrative, we take all the negativity away from it. When everything's hard and have to, it becomes hard. So when we change that small little piece of language, it puts a smile on your face. So whenever I think something's going to be hard, I'm like, I get to do this. How lucky am I? I get to sit here and talk to Maritza. I get to do all of these wonderful things. So I think language is hugely, hugely important.
You're flipping it into a gratitude, which I really love. Can you imagine, like, I'm just picturing you now, because I know both of you are doing this incredible walk, which is like a personal development walk. And I want to hear all about it, but I'm listening to you both with these inspirational words and thinking, imagine having these two behind you talking these amazing things, inspiring you and lifting you up. So tell me about this incredible, quest that you've put together.
Well, we both love walking. We've gone on walking holidays together. We walk and talk all the time. It's where all of the, exciting creative ideas come from. And we both actually just love walking our dogs and being outside. And so it was like, well, how do we make this something that's a part of the business, and we address our bucket lists at the same time? So we partnered with Wandering the World, because we love walking, and we think that when you walk with people, they have incredible conversations. We've noticed that on the walking holidays that we've been on. And so we said, imagine if we walk with people and we coach them, and, we give 2 topics a day, and they're journaling about them and thinking about them and talking about them when they're walking. And you sort of walk away with a full journal on yourself, your ideas, all of the amazing words and quotes and things that we're going to be bringing out to you. And you haven't just done the Camino for 8 days in Spain. You've walked away having completed the Camino, but also with this incredible journal on, your thoughts for your future and mapping out your future and what your goals are and how you want to feel and what's most important to you. And it's all written. So we can stop under a tree for half an hour and everyone can write and listen and rest. And so it's a really taking things to another level, which is what we want to do with high performance, but also bringing that real human element into things. So we've got Camino and we've got another one about to launch in Japan.
Oh, wow. Japan's on my bucket list and this sounds damn incredible. So
you need to come with us. It's in October next year. We haven't put it out there. By the time this podcast comes out, I'm sure we would have announced it, but we are announcing it in the next couple of weeks, and it's in October next year.
Oh, wow.
And so Kyoto to Tokyo, we're walking for 70 Ks across 7 days. So it will be spectacular. I think the other thing about the whole walking is that it allows us to step away from our day-to-day desks. Shanna and I never come up with ideas sitting at our desk together. We always come up with these light bulb, incredible moments when we're out in nature, walking in a different space. Like we'll go and hire a space to go and work in for the day so that we're not sitting in our usual space, because that's how you actually bring creativity into your mind, when you can open it up and not be bogged down with all of the stuff that's around you. So the great thing about both Camino and Japan is we are walking in nature. That does something quite incredible to the brain. It literally, it's like getting just opening it up and letting all the rubbish and all the thoughts and all of the clutter wash away, and you've got this clarity that you're walking and sitting in. And that's really where the magical stuff starts to happen, is when you allow yourself to do that.
Oh, it sounds so good. You know what? It reminds me of going back to those dreaded lockdown days, but when we started walking for social activity. And you'd catch up with that one person that you were allowed to see, or whatever it was going on in Victoria at the time. And walking was that social catch up. And I loved it, actually. I really enjoyed, not being at a cafe or at a restaurant to catch up with someone, but actually, being involved in physical activity and out in nature, like you say, and connecting with someone, just sitting on the beach and having a coffee together. And that was sort of a really enjoyable way of connecting. And yeah, that's why I absolutely love what you're doing. I think it's so great. October 2023. I'm going to have to pencil that into my calendar. And I should probably give you, I've got conscious conversation cards that we have created as part of my other company, and they're beautiful conversation starters for deeper connection, and they might be perfect to chuck into your backpack and throw out to the team. I'll send you a deck for sure. But yeah, I'm all about the deep conversations, because touching someone at a deeper level and connecting with them at that level is so much more important than that surface level stuff that we get a lot of, especially in a corporate environment. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And, we want to ask the questions, and nobody asks you the questions in the coffee shop, like, how do you want to feel in 3 years' time, and how old are you going to be, and what does that mean to you? And to get people to put that into words, they're never invited to do that. Do they want to feel calm, confident, grounded, energetic, graceful? What are the words? And when people write the words, then they can start and feel it, and they can see it, and then they can start making decisions around it, about their behavior, about their habits, about their goals. So we really want that space for people to actually think and reflect as well, which you're not going to get in a corporate environment.
Yeah. Are you going to be wearing Coach t-shirts? I'm just checking.
Oh, I don't know about that.
In charge of fashion, That's
one of the things we talk about, Rita, and I talk about, if I think of all the successful people I've met throughout my life, and, entrepreneurs, one of the things that they all have in common is self-awareness. And that self-awareness actually takes time to get there. And a big part of this is, as Shanna said, those questions. What am I afraid of? What holds me back? Why do I have an inner critic? What are the stories I tell myself? Why do I self-sabotage? What do I want for my future self? We do not ask ourselves those questions. We are just, again, crazy on the treadmill. So these are all the questions that we need to unpack as we walk in nature, as we cleanse our minds, as we get clarity on what we want for our future self. So it's a really powerful tool.
Yeah, it would be very powerful. I talk a lot about identifying our life-defining moments. So I did a course few years back, and I was asked to write a list of 25 life-defining moments. And I thought, there's no way I've got 25 life-defining moments. I'm not that interesting, or, I haven't had that many things happen to me that I would call life defining. But when I started putting pen to paper, there were a series of things, like even small little conversations that I had allowed to define how I believe something was true. And it was so interesting when I took the time to do that. And then from that, I actually crossed out what wasn't actually defining me anymore. And it really gave me that opportunity to sit, think, reflect, and look at these things, these experiences, these moments in my life that were causing me to inherit beliefs that weren't mine. So another powerful little exercise that I've just found a bit of a game changer in everything that I've done.
Well, as coaches, we always say, what's your story?
Yeah.
And when you can change your state, change your story, you can change your life. So when you're moving, that's why we change state. So when you're sitting all the time and you're thinking the same thing, it means you're in that stuck state, stuck energy, stuck mind. So when we're moving, hence walking for us, we're changing our state. So we're changing our hormone level. The second part is you need to change your story. So if what you're telling yourself is actually working for you or not. So if this is too hard and I don't like this, okay, then you have to change it. So parts of the business that we wanted to do that we just thought we're not even going to enjoy. Oh, well, why would we do that? Let's change the story and say we don't have to do this. We don't have to do that part if we don't want to do that part. So changing your story of things in the past that have happened to us and the inner critic is a really big part of working with a coach. And I've had a coach myself on and off as the coach. The coach should always have a coach for 20 years. So every couple of years I get myself a coach to keep me accountable, but to ask me the really hard questions that I don't want to ask myself.
Yeah, I was actually about to ask you that. So thank you for saying whether I wanted to know whether you had your own coach. But I suppose that was that thing that sparked you on this journey right at the beginning, wasn't it?
Yes. So when I had chronic fatigue, I got a coach because I'd been around high performance. So it was quite normal. Everyone had a coach in high performance. No one had a life coach. They all had strength coaches and track coaches. But I did find something called a life coach, and I'd never heard of it before. And I thought I'd give it a go because I didn't need a psychologist or a counselor or anything like that. My body was broken. And I just love the experience of having a coach and someone in my corner, as Colleen said. For a lot of people, they don't have anyone to talk to or to tell the truth to, the real truth, and to tell people how they really feel. Like really after 3 times asking the same question, how do you feel? Good. How do you really feel? Oh, okay. Now tell me how you really feel. And then you get into the great conversation. So I absolutely think for authenticity purposes as well, I make sure that I have a coach if I'm coaching other people. It's like having a personal trainer who's not training. I think if you're getting a coach, you should always be asking if they're coached and they're walking the talk.
That is a very good question. I suppose you're good at asking the good questions. That's why you're a coach. The power of two. Gosh, you two are both incredible powerhouses and doing amazing things for people out there. Is it mainly women that you're working with on this mastermind?
No, we work with all different people from all different walks of life. We will have some specific women's events, but no, we work with people from all industries, lots of big corporates, because everyone needs a plan, whether you're male or female, no matter what your preference is. Everyone needs a life plan. Everyone needs a master plan. Everyone needs to know what that future vision looks like. So, no, we work with lots and lots of different people.
Wholeheartedly agree.
We say that we're 2 women on a mission just to elevate humans.
Love that. That's really great. Every time I have people on this podcast, I ask them one question, and Colleen's probably answered this one already, so she might want to throw in another one. But what is something that, based on the title of the show, something that you heard that you could not unhear and that really forced you to go, hey, maybe I need to make some changes, or hey, that really inspired me? Is there something that pops to mind straight away, Shanna?
Yes, I haven't thought of that, but what popped into my mind is someone said to me, it's not what you get from achieving your goals, it's who you become in the process. So it really did affect me because I thought about, don't just be the achievement junkie to tick off the list. Really think about who you want to become in the process and how you want to evolve yourself. And what you want to feel during the process. So when you're just the achievement junkie, it's pretty hollow. We're ticking things off. Yep, we write a book. Yep, we do this, we do that. it doesn't mean much. It doesn't last very long. So I really tried to focus on the human side of things and the feeling side and the fulfillment side. And that really changed me early on.
I love that.
I was thinking about this, Maritza, because I knew you would ask this question, given the wonderful title of your podcast. And I actually should have gone back and listened to our previous podcast because I can't remember what I said. But the thing that pops into my mind right at the moment is I remember when I was 18 and it was my first retail job. I'd left school, as you know, at 16, and the area manager came down to offer me my first managerial role. And in that moment, I was just so excited. And then all of a sudden I came crashing down because that inner critic turned up. Can you do it? You're too young. Everyone's older than you. You're going to fail. And she could see the reaction that I was having, this absolute overwhelm of self-doubt. And the words she said to me in that moment was, I believe in you, and now you need to believe in yourself. And I remember those words like yesterday, and they're the words I now say to other people, other women particularly, is I believe in you. Now you need to believe in yourself. Because once we start to believe in ourselves, that's when the magical stuff starts to happen. That's when all of these things around us start to happen. And we go, I don't know why this is all of a sudden happening, for me, but it's because you start to have self-belief. So I would say to every single woman listening to your podcast, believe in yourself, because you can do and be and achieve anything that you put your mind to.
And Colleen, you are someone who truly walks their talk, because after I interviewed you and had you on the show 6 months ago or so, you supported me so many times throughout your social media channels, and you introduced me to people that you thought that I could potentially benefit from working with mutually. You don't just say it, you actually do it. And that is, something that gives me body chills, because I really relate and resonate with people who walk their talk. And, you're there to empower others and lift them up and believe in them, which is exactly what you're doing. And I love you. I love that. And thank you for that.
Oh, I love you too.
I love you. That just came out. I love you.
And I one of my values is also authenticity. I have 5 values. One of them is authenticity, but I think the powerhouse of 2 coming together, Shanna and I, is that we actually are both like that. We both walk the talk. What you see is what you get. What we go out and share with people and teach is actually the way we live our lives. We talk about our values. We live them every day. We talk about creating rituals in your lives. We live those every day. We talk about creating boundaries so that you can keep your tank full. We live that every day. So a big part, I believe, of why this partnership and why the power of 2 has been so successful is because we are authentically sharing our lives with people and our lived experiences. So I think if you do that in life, if you really are authentic and live that way, you will be successful. And again, whatever success means to you, it means something different to everyone. But your dreams, your goals, your vision, your future self will come true because you are being authentic and honest with the person that is looking back at you in the mirror.
Amazing. You're lucky to have found each other and be working with each other in this way, considering there's so many similarities, but also so many differences that empower you both.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. And, a lot of women are afraid to collaborate, aren't they? They're quite competitive and they're in their own little silos. And we want to show women that, it can be a really great journey, and it's just so much richer when you do it with someone and you're sharing the journey with someone than trying to do everything on your own. And I think then we can have a lot more success too when we band together and help each other.
Amazing. Well, thank you both for your time today. You've definitely inspired me, and I will definitely be looking up this trek in Japan that is coming up next year. Thank you for everything that you do, and I look forward to sharing it with our community more.
Oh, thank you so much for having us. It's wonderful, wonderful to see you.
Yeah, and thank you for giving it to the world. It's wonderful.
Thanks for listening to the show. What did you think? And what did you feel? Let us know by leaving me a message on the Things You Can't Unhear Instagram community page. And if you can, give us some ratings love on your favourite listening platform.